Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Today, we're lucky to have all the way from Brooklyn, New York, Kevin Hubschman. He's a self-proclaimed comedy nerd. You may have heard of SaaS, software as a service. Well, Kevin sells LAS, that is laughter as a service. He's a stand-up comedian, an improviser. More importantly today, a business owner of Laugh.Inc. Kevin, let's talk small business.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So you're a business owner right now, but of course, you know, we've got that comedy aspect in it. You are the owner of Laugh.Inc. First of all, tell me, what does Laugh.Inc?
Yeah, so Laugh.Inc, we run Laugh.events within that part of our business. We also have a newsletter called LaughRx. And yeah, the focus of the business is to bring comedy experiences to corporate audiences. So that could be in the form of
business, though, isn't it?
Yeah, two parts of our business. And those comedy experiences can come in the form of comedy shows. So we run amazing comedy shows. We started off during the pandemic really blowing up because, that was such a ripe time for people to really be looking for comedy and looking for laughter, especially in the corporate environment. So we did tons of virtual comedy shows with the best comedians in the world, performing for all over the country, or all over the world rather. And yeah, that's something we still do. Even in the pandemic ended, we kept going harder and harder into virtual, and we really feel like we've perfected the virtual comedy show. But then, in the States, we do in-person comedy shows, and then we also, on the other side of our business, is something that we're really passionate about because we're kind of carving our own little niche here, but it's something we call Laughing and Development, which is available virtually and in person in the United States, but it is using comedy skills to level people up professionally. So we create custom workshops for people to use applied improv and applied stand-up exercises to help people get better at listening or collaboration or idea generation or thinking on your feet. There are a number of different ways that people can use comedy skills, and laugh and jokes is not even on the docket of what we do. Obviously, well, not obviously. I guess that's where the misconception is, that people think that humor and jokes are synonymous, but they aren't the way that we look at it. We feel that humor skills are really about connecting with someone and listening to them, and then communicating with them effectively, building rapport, and getting on with them for the ultimate opportunity to share a laugh when it's all said and done. But really, it's how do you create that mutual respect so that people are ready to be vulnerable and ready to have fun with one another.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's probably exactly why we got you on the podcast today, because, business can be all serious and stuff, but it really resonated with me that, hey, look, we need to have a bit of a laugh along the way, and that can help. We'll dive into that really soon. But one thing you said, you're sort of doing virtual, after COVID, you're doing virtual comedy. Now, I've, watched some stand-up on Netflix and the rest, but they were recorded with a in-person crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of thinking, how hard is it to do a meeting like this where you don't necessarily have that feel of the in-person crowd to run off? Is that a skill in itself?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's a question we get all the time. We still get it because we still do them. But the funny thing is, when the pandemic was starting, that's where all the comedy actually shifted virtually, both corporate and non-corporate. But people tried to do it on the non-corporate side, and it kept failing. It kept being really bad because it was like rooms of 100 people or 200 people, and then you might have someone just going crazy or like making sounds, not muting themselves, or just like really being straight up disrespectful. And, in order for comedy to work, the audience kind of has to be ready to accept the comedy and sit there and listen and, not heckle. And so for the non-corporate audiences, it was a nightmare. And so we stayed far away from the non-corporate side and we went hard into the corporate. And we found that it was actually the best environment you could imagine for comedy, because the audience, the companies really act as their own bouncers, right? HR emotionally has people being like, yeah, do not disrespect our company here. Like, you are here representing our company. Like, when you're at work, you are like attentive, right? You're like for the most part. I think so. People are looking at the cameras. They're on their microphones. This is the moment where you're like dialed in and you're respectful of like having a work call. So you're not going to be in a noisy area, most likely. So it's actually like the perfect, like silent bouncer is what I used to call it, like the phantom bouncer. They would make sure the company is just in general, like they want the event to go well. This is something that they're investing in. So that was like the hardest part, was making sure that, people were attentive, and because they're at work, they need to be paying attention. So they are laughing a lot. And that's when we make sure they're on their microphones and they are paying attention and they are like really ready, as if they're in a real regular meeting. We had this awesome a billboard in Times Square in New York once, and we said a meeting or a email that could have been a meeting. What about a meeting that could have been a comedy show? And that was our tagline. And that was like kind of embodied it. It was like these were starting to replace these meetings, but think about the attention that you give. So it's the attention that comedians love. Now, when they stay on mute, that's a nightmare. Like they're like, no, we're helping you out. It's like, no, we need to hear laughter. We need to see smiles, because that's the feedback that comedians need to get it going. But, we eventually also tweaked it. So it wasn't just stand-up comedy. We started to do something called Workday Update, which was using a lot of visuals and asking people to submit pre-event surveys so that we could like use their own submissions, like memes they wanted to use or office buzzwords that they're saying or fun facts about themselves. So we started to make the comedy shows about the people in the room and about the company culture and about the memes that they share with one another. And so we were starting to be like, hey, we're in on the joke with you. Let's use this as part of the material instead of what's the deal with this? Let's talk more about the work life and the work culture. And then we also got into
that sort of seems like some of the secret sauce that really goes into it nowadays. Yeah.
Exactly. It's that personalization, because you're starting to speak the language of the culture. And then we went even further with it, and we started to do improvisational musical shows. So we would have people be like, hey, what's it like to work at your company? Or like, what do you do? Or what's a daily interaction with a customer like? And then we would make songs about the company on the spot. And so that's still what we do now. It's still super fun, especially the holiday season coming up. We just get absolutely mangled with tons of gigs, which is awesome. And yeah, we work with folks in all over the country, all over the world rather. And so it's been very fun to work in all different types of time zones, all different types of cultures. And it works throughout, which is really great.
Now, Laugh.Inc, you mentioned that you started in COVID, that was right?
Yeah, we actually started about a year before COVID. I was a comedian myself. I still am, but I started in comedy. I started as a comedian, and I was throwing comedy shows in my office after work. And so that's what Laugh.Inc started as. It was just me doing comedy shows after work for my coworkers and all my friends and their friends.
So you've started just after work, having a bit of a laugh with your mates. And now you're servicing some of the Fortune 500 companies. I've noted down you've done gigs for Spotify, Google, Meta, Amazon. These are the biggest companies in the world. So how did you get from having a few laughs with some mates after work to where your business is at today?
Well, it really started during the pandemic. People were saying we need something different and we need something unique. And that's kind of to credit to all of the different businesses that we've been blessed to work with, is that they were always striving for something a little different, something that was going to keep their team like being like, whoa, that was really awesome. So, that's what we did. We said, hey, let's just create a really unique product that is slightly different than what's out there on the market. And let's let everyone come to us. And so that's really what happened to start. And it became a word of mouth type of thing. I think during the pandemic, we had this stat that was like, every time someone posted on LinkedIn about our services after the event, we got 2 new referrals. And it was like I wish that's how it was now. That would be awesome. But like, that's what the pandemic was going down with. And that's, people were just really eager to learn. So we started to get more people. And, again, we just keep exposing ourselves more and more. And all I would say was like, how do we get in front of those people? Like, we didn't stop. We just kept going. And we kept saying, like, if we focus on delivering a great product, then people will find us. And obviously we had to eventually tweak our marketing to make that more predictive and, get our spend in so that we were getting good ROI on our performance marketing and whatnot. But ultimately, we said the focus is on a great product and we're going to let word of mouth take the wheel here. And that's what got us in front of some great companies.
What were you doing for a day job before you started this business?
So I started my career as one of the first 10 employees at this company called Splash. It was an event marketing software. And so I was one of the first 10 employees there. And I started in like customer service and then eventually moved into sales and helped build that sales team up until I left. I mean, it's the same company I said that I used to throw comedy shows in my office. It was that same company. I've only worked for them and myself, which is cool. And yeah, I was in the sales world. I was selling to the Fortune 500. And then eventually I knew how to sell to those same types of people when I got into my own business. So, that was really great.
Those skills, and that allowed you to run what you're running today.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think it was, I always wanted to work for myself, run my own business, but I did right after college. I was like, that's what I want to do. I'm an entrepreneur. I studied entrepreneurship in college, except I didn't realize that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think that was so important for the first 7 years of my career, where I got to fail a ton and I got to be mentored by some really intelligent people with tons of experience. And I think that was something that I had never known. If I could go back in time and tell myself, is be like, you're on the right path. You even though you do want to be your own boss, start your own business, you do need to embrace what you don't know and get in front of people that do know what they know and just be a sponge. And so I was really lucky to have some amazing mentors within Splash that would just let me kind of get a lot of wins too. They would do it and then they'd be like, you did it, you know what I mean? And I didn't do it, but they would give me that credit and it would give me that confidence to be like, okay, I can run this on my own. And eventually I did. So I definitely credit that day job was my job. It was my full-time job. And then comedy became my hobby. And while I was doing the hobby, I learned that those comedy skills I was learning were actually aiding me in being a better professional.
Like, it sounds like you were an entrepreneur from the very beginning. That's what you sort of wanted to do. Did you ever think, besides, I guess, probably the dreams of being on stage in front of thousands of people in comedy, did you ever think that comedy would lead to business?
No, never. I mean, not at all. I also never had this dream of being in front of 1,000 people. I think I've just always been, you said at the top, I'm a comedy nerd. I've always loved comedy. I always loved the skill of, I just became infatuated with like, how does a great comedian work? And I became more obsessed with the craft than the glory, so to speak. And so every time that I tried to improve my skills, like even when I started an improv comedy, which is not glorious at all. It was actually me and my two brothers and my best friend, and we started a group called the Brothers in Flaws, and we did 3 hours of improv comedy a week in my brother's small apartment. And we didn't perform for like a year, and it was just around us. And it was like, hey, we're getting better at this thing, and this is really fun. And eventually, we were performing. I eventually performed stand-up comedy. But it was open mics. It was getting a little bit better. And, cause there's so much unique aspects to comedy that you can learn. And that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to get better at it. I wanted to see what makes a great joke. I wanted to see what makes great banter and improv and just what organically can make people have great comedy skills. Because I think I deep down knew that I was always naturally a funny person, and that would lead a lot of people to, want to connect with me. So I did always feel like people were always drawn to comedy, and it came naturally to me. But I did feel like, okay, if it comes naturally, maybe I can level up those skills and make them a little stronger. And I think that's what was my drive, was like, oh, let's just get a little bit better, and let's get a little bit better at it. And who knows what will happen, but good things are happening so far, so just keep it going.
Really just highlights for anything we do in life, especially, business as well. If you just keep on working at it and just not give up, you become better and better and better. So business, sport, life, brilliant. Just while we're at it, just off the top of the head, are there? You said you love the craft. Comedy-wise, I only know the big names like Dave Chappelle and things like that. Who would be your? Let's not call them idols, but who would you see as the craft of people that maybe I would know?
Yeah, I mean, people that you will know. I will say, like, I like to answer this question of like, what are some comedy specials that I like? Because that's stuff that people can enjoy. One of my all-time favorite specials is Zach Galifianakis live at the Purple Onion. That's a really great comedy special, mixes in some musicality into some awesome jokes, and he's just perfect. He's like sipping a beer the whole time, breaks it up. You just like enjoy the pauses and all the stuff he's doing. It's brilliant. I love, there's a great Netflix special or HBO Max special with this comedian, John Early, who's fantastic. He's so funny. He also is like mixing between comedy and music and adding musicality. I guess that's a theme here. Another special that I really loved that I watched the other day was a Dimitri Martin special. And he's a great comedian, and he's doing it incredibly uniquely. I think of all those three specials, they're definitely different than what you would see in a more traditional hour-long stand-up. They're very much approaching it in a unique way, which I think they put the special in special. And so I really like to, find comedy, especially I think stand-up's really great to watch in person, and I love watching stand-up in person. And I always, when I look at specials to watch online and on Netflix and whatnot, I look at stuff that's like going to be, kind of hitting a lot of different senses. So I think those are some deep cuts for your audience there.
Yeah. Look, I being from the bottom of the world here, we don't get the opportunity to see many of these bigger acts, especially from the town that I'm at. But when I was in Chicago, I made sure I went to a comedy club and the rest. But I'm sure you being from, you get the opportunity to see so many different acts. Would that be right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've performed with some of the biggest acts in the world. That's what was so cool about doing this after work show. It wasn't just with my friends. I mean, they were coming to support, but I was performing alongside comedians like Mark Normand and Sam Morrill and Jessica Kirson and all of these different amazing comedians that were just pros and absolute pros. So that's also what I was loving. I was able to perform next to just studs and really people that just were so great at what they do. But then, yeah, I live in New York City. I can go and see the best comedy in the world at a drop of a hat. I saw Jerry Seinfeld a couple of weeks ago, and that was a really cool bucket list experience. But yeah, I'm just very grateful I've had the opportunity to put on these shows. And, that was my whole goal. It was like, hey, if I'm going to do this comedy thing, what's a way I can do it my way? And, that way I can do it is I'm going to host some great comedy shows and rub elbows with some fantastic performers that perform all across the world. And, I'll give this my time, even if I'm only spending 15 minutes with them or 20 minutes with them, I'm getting that opportunity. So if I just keep putting together a great show, maybe they'll want to perform on it. And that's how I can keep the relationship going.
Cool. Hey, well, we're here to talk business. So one of the things that really want to dive into now then is part of your business is obviously you've grown your own business to offer these shows, but the other half is about helping people in business, professionals, use comedy to sell or be a better professional. So let's learn, or I'm keen to learn how this all works and what your take of this is.
Yeah. So, when we talk about the different businesses we work in, I was in a sales role, so it's really easy for me to talk about sales, and we create custom workshops specifically for salespeople. And obviously humor is very valuable when it comes to sales, but we've had the opportunity to work with marketers and people in the finance department and doctors and healthcare professionals and lawyers. Like really, it runs the gamut of every industry, every position. And so that's why I try to button it up to saying, or kind of encapsulate it to just being professionals, because what these skills are, they are improv skills, applied improv. So the difference between improv and stand-up for your audience is that, improv, stand-up is exactly what people are comfortable know all about. Someone goes up there, tells stand-up jokes, that's it. When it comes to improv, people might think of improv as like, whose line is it anyways? Or, things like that, where it's coming up off the top of your head and that's it. But what we do is something called applied improv and applied stand-up, which is using games and exercises to have fun and play. But most importantly, you are learning these base skills that comedians use on stage, like active listening or empathetic communication or thinking on your feet, going off script, showing up as your authentic version, being okay to fail, looking at failure as feedback, all of these different lessons that you're able to do. So what we do with companies is, no matter the industry, whatever it is, sales is a great one. Again, like I said, because you can tie ROI to sales. So I always love working with industries where you can tie ROI to it. That's why, working with different people who have to work with client satisfaction or patient satisfaction or again, sales, you're able to really see of like, okay, did implementing these different skills like listening better or communicating better, did it result in our outcome, which might be better NPS scores or more sales and more conversions. So, we create custom curriculums for these groups, create and play these games. Again, it's in person or virtual. And we have the opportunity to help people just learn important stuff of like, again, it sounds simple, but listening better, communicating effectively. Those are kind of like the foundations where you can then shoot off into other directions. But when you nail those two skills, the world's your oyster.
Yeah. And a couple of the other things that I sort of picked up in there and really got me thinking, not being afraid to fail. Like, I can imagine, I wouldn't know the stats, but I'm sure it's pretty high about someone's fear trying to stand up and tell jokes in front of people. That public speaking, it's a huge fear for people. And as, I guess, comedians, like trying to tell a joke and it laying flat, I mean, that could probably be scary. I'm just imagining it right now that, oh my gosh. So, but you've also said that, hey, look, you take that feedback and you learn from it. So in today's world, a lot of people are, I guess, held back from getting themselves out there, maybe promoting themselves online, just as a simple one.
Mm-hmm.
Overcoming that fear of failure is huge, especially in small business. So how do we learn from that? How do you take that and try and help people to overcome this fear?
Yeah, I think it's so hard. I think first off, give yourself the grace that you're trying in the first place. I think that is like the first step is like you're taking a step that a different version of yourself wouldn't take. Certainly the other people around you and your friends and family, they're scared to take that. That's why you don't see them doing it themselves. So I think first and foremost, like anybody that's putting themselves out there, whether that's online or whether that's on a stage, give yourself a pat on the back. You're going for it. You're doing it. And that you're taking a step that no one else is taking. And I think that that's a really important thing to do first and foremost. I think secondly, the more you fail, the more comfortable you get with failing and the more comfortable you get with trying. I think when it comes to like stand-up comedy, that was the most valuable lesson that I learned was like, I'm going to go up there and it's almost inevitable that something's going to bomb. It might be the whole thing. It might be only a part of it, but I know that something is not going to go well. And I'm telling myself that now because I already experienced that. So I've already experienced what it's like to fail. And the more you experience failure, the more comfortable that you get with failure, but more importantly, the more comfortable you get with learning from failure. And I think that that's the third step is learning from the failure that happens. And so when it comes to stand up, for instance, you tell a 5-minute set, 4 minutes and 50 seconds of that might stink, like absolutely stink. And you are like, all you hear is like shell shock almost, you're like, what is happening? But like what happened with that 10 seconds that I'd mentioned? What did you might have heard a laugh in that 10 seconds. And if you want to equate it to maybe people trying stuff online, maybe you got a like from a stranger. Maybe you got some extra views. What is that 10 seconds to you when you're trying that out? And what success is stacking those little pieces of success. It's not about like taking one home run hit and be like, I nailed it. I crushed it. Obviously that's going to happen, but that's only going to happen if you keep being okay with failing and taking that 10 seconds, turning it into 20, taking that one like, turning it into 2. And what it is consistency. So that's the third thing, or the fourth thing that I'll say is that when you decide to learn from failure, then you get to do it and loop it. And the fourth thing is consistency and going, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to do this every month. Great. I got through the month. I'm now going for, now that 2's to 4, 4 to 6. And now I'm going to get into a year. And, whether it's going, promoting yourself online, again, like I've said, or going on stage, it's like being okay with like, man, this might not work out in the first 6 months, 8 months. And to be honest, comedy, a lot of the times what I've seen working in this business, comedy is a war of attrition. The people that stop doing it and stop trying and stop and just give up, frankly, those are the ones that stop doing it. And the ones that keep going and they get past that 8-month mark, they might find out at 8 months and 1 day that they figured it out, or that their audience was finally attached to them. I know so many small business owners that I rub elbows with that have told me, I'm like, what's your secret to social media? Because I can't crack it. And they go, I had to go and go and go. And I figured it out the day before I thought about quitting. And it was like, that's the story I've heard every single time. So it's so applicable to stand up, because you have to just like totally be willing to eat it constantly and stop caring about what other people think. I think that's like a really obvious and easy thing to say. It's a lot easier said than done, but that goes to my first thing. Like, you give yourself the grace that you're trying, and then just go for it. Go for it for a year. I know that feels like a long time, but it's the consistency, and you're building up the reps, and then you're getting better and you're learning about yourself. And even if it doesn't work out for this time, you're going to learn about yourself to apply that skill to another part of your life.
Hey, Kevin, I've always said, like, people who go to the gym, work out consistently, I said, hey, they will make a great business owner because they just do the things consistently. So to that list, now I'm thinking, man, I need to add comedians because you just need to keep on going consistently. And that's what it's about. And I really resonate with that message, that just to keep on going. And like you had your mates doing your improv in your apartment, just the fact of doing it, you get better and better. It's called practice for a reason. So it really hits home.
If you ask any comedian, when they got good, almost all of them say 10 years, the 10-year mark. That's crazy. So I think that, but I would also say that to myself. I have been working as a small business owner myself for the last 7 years, and I feel like I'm only just starting to figure it out. You know what I mean? So it's like, I've resonated with that 10-year mark in the comedy world, and it's so applicable in the small business world as well, is that you have to keep going, and you have to just forget everything and have amnesia, but also have long-term memory. Have a short-term memory, but a long-term memory, because you're learning and you're growing. And so, I always think that comics are a great person to look at, because you're like, how are you still doing this? I know how much you have to bomb over a 10-year span. And I think small businesses are the same way, and swap stage time for Google ads or for Facebook ads or for social media or whatever it might be. You have to try and you have to learn what works.
Okay. So you're a small business selling to some of the largest companies out there. You said in your previous job, that was your position to sell to these companies. When we're selling, the bigger the company to sell to, the harder the sell, because it takes long. You need to go through a whole lot of different channels and all the rest. How do you go about it yourself to actually sell your product and service? What's your process that you go through?
I think first off, I have a very good opening slide deck that I can share with people. It's no more than 6 slides, something that really shows, and what's in there is the story that they're going to be telling their boss. And so I think that that's a very important thing. I really try to focus on the game of telephone that you're going to be playing. And so I always have that as a resource. First and foremost is having a very strong slide deck that says, who we are, why you should be doing this, and, who else has done this as well to similar success. And so I think that is very important. Secondly, I always make sure to try to get on the phone with them. There's been so many times, it depends on the size of what you're selling and the product you're selling and the amount of money you're selling it for. But generally in the B2B sale, you should be getting on the phone with people and you should be getting better. And that's where a lot of these comedy skills are. It's listening to their problems and listening to what are their issues. And the more, like, I had a call today with somebody where she was like, I could have just filled out this form that you sent me, because you also have to take into account some people who are like, I don't want to talk to you. You know what I mean? The people that are like, and so I have like a path for those people too. And, those have lower success rates. But she was like, I could have filled out this form, but I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to like get what it was like. And so the conversation that her and I were able to have, might as well have sealed the deal, because she was able to not just ask questions, but I was able to really listen to what her main problems were. And so nothing that my slide deck or the form she could have filled out would have eased the problem, instead of me listening to her exact problems and prescribing an exact solution. So when you get on the phone with people, and that's another advice I would give anybody, if anybody these days is sending an email that says, send me some times that work, stop doing that today. Get a Calendly link or any sort of meeting link and save yourself some time and your client's time, because that drives me crazy when I get that request, like, shoot me some times that work. It's like, well, speed kills deals. So you're already killing yourself there. So how can you really figure out a way to speed up your process in any way? So, get a calendar.
That exact thing for a client yesterday. I said those exact words. We need to do this. Let's do this now. Yeah,
exactly. And so that is it. Get that meeting link going. Get on the phone with people. Listen to what their problems are, and go off script if you need to. But more importantly, prescribe something very specific. And then they're going to have to play that game of telephone back with their boss. You won them over there with that conversation. But now what is your takeaway for them to then have that same conversation with their boss? So I usually create a lot of custom proposals from that point on, mixed with the slide deck potentially, but really depending on the situation.
Because of your industry and what you're offering, do people expect you to be funny when you're speaking to? I mean, they wouldn't expect me to be funny. I'm in business coach. But like right now, talking like this, do people go, oh, tell me a funny joke? Or what's that expectation on you?
I'm in business too. I think that's like, I'm a comedian, sure. But that's like, I run a business, and the companies that I'm working with, they're not looking for me to turn their people into comedians. They're looking for an opportunity for their team to connect with one another. And so that's what I'm serious about. And sure, do they expect me to be funny? A little bit, like I'm running a comedy business, but it's more like, do they expect me not to be a Grinch? That's like mainly what it is. Like, they don't expect me to have be a stick in the mud. They expect me to have some sort of, positive energy. And I think that that's the energy that I'm bringing, is positivity and excitement and passion. And I think that that's transferable to anyone, whether you're selling concrete or you're selling, what I sell, which is comedy services. People are attracted to that positivity and to that passion, and be like, whoa, this person really cares about this. And that's how you can differentiate yourself a lot of the times between other providers, because more often than not, they're looking at other people besides you, if they're real good buyers, which they should be if they've got the company card. So, well, I don't believe in, I don't have any joke. You tell me to tell you a joke now, you'd be waiting on pause for quite some time. I don't have a joke to tell you. Maybe we grab a beer, I'll tell you a joke. But like, I don't have any jokes. I have my ability to try to connect with somebody and listen to what their problems are. And maybe there's an opportunity for me to weave in their problems into something that could make them laugh. But it's because I'm listening and I'm speaking their language. So that's really what I'm mainly focused on, is like, I could tell a joke, but you might as well be, you're telling your own language, right? That's what your joke is. You're like, I find this funny, but you don't know anything about another person. So it's actually a very selfish behavior to tell a joke in a way. So what you need to do is listen to what this person cares about and find opportunities to, see if there's read the room and see, is there an opportunity for me to have a conversation with this person, connect with them? And then there's like really easy ways to get people to laugh, because what laughter is, it's a recognition of intelligence, right? When people go, oh, I get the joke, or I'm in on the joke, and that's why they laugh, because they get it. And you're looking at a comedian, you're going, I got you, like we're on the same page here. And so that's really what you're going for, is like, okay, maybe I do some banter in the beginning of my call, and then I close out the call with a callback from the first thing that they said in the beginning. Hey, hope this goes well for you that you mentioned. Like, I know your kid has a soccer game this weekend. Hope they score 3 goals and do the Ronaldo celebration or whatever. You can give yourself opportunities to call back things, and it all starts with listening. And it all starts with listening and making sure that you're validating a lot of what they're going through.
I got to admit, in terms of that listening thing, totally agree. It's been drummed into me in sales career, like listen. And it is something that I've had to actively work on, because the way my mind works, I just have to spit something out, otherwise I'll forget it. And so, yeah, such a big thing. And like you said, to help close those deals as well, a really good tool that if you did bring something back, or you remember them, or simply just remembering someone's name, really helps in that process, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just about listening, and it's about not having any tabs. I mean, if it's an online sale, don't have any tabs open. You're going to miss something. Be so dialed in. We do an improv game that I love called Last Letter, Last Word, or Last Word, Last Letter. And you go back and you have a conversation with someone, like you and I would go back and forth, and I would tell you about my day. And then you couldn't start until I was done. And you could only start your sentence with the last letter of the last word that I said.
Last letter of the last word.
So that would be the last word, last letter I said. So it would be said, then D.
And then
so then you go,
does this work with you? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like just a really moment where you'd be like, I can't interrupt this person until they're done. I can't talk over in what I was going to say, because I have to start with the letter of the last word. I have to be so dialed in. And so that is like one of the lessons in active listening that's effective, because it's like, okay, I need to have my full presence, because they could stop the sentence at any moment, and I need to really focus on what they're saying.
I love that. Really good team bonding exercise. And like you said, you have to listen, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Love it. Okay. So you've got this business. It's been running for 5-6 years now. That'll be right?
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the future for you and Laugh.Inc?
So the future is continuing to go into different professions and using laughing in development as an opportunity for people to level up their skills. And a lot of my future is focused on people being comfortable getting into using comedy skills in the workplace and training. Really, it's not just about the application. It's about the training. And when we're dealing with AI and so much AI taking over a lot of the busy work for us, that's great. You're getting that busy work out of you, but what are you doing to be more human? And so my goal is to make this accessible to everybody so that they can learn more of these skills. Whether, you're in New Zealand or whether you're in New Jersey, you have the equal opportunity to learn these skills and apply them so that you're able to make more connections and make more business, and make stronger relationships.
Great. I love it. So anyone listening right around the world, your services are going to be applicable. Where are they going to find you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's laugh.events. So instead of the .com, it's .events. So laugh.events. That's where you can book any sort of corporate services with us for your business, virtual, in person, all that stuff. Then we have a newsletter called LaughRx. And so you can find that at laughrx.laugh.events. And then, connect with me on LinkedIn, Kevin Hubschman, the one and only.
Hey, Kevin, it's been a pleasure today. And certainly I've learned a lot about the crossover between comedy and business and how one can help the other. So it's been really, really cool. I hope to make it back to Brooklyn, New York again soon as well. And hey, this has been Let's Talk Business. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk small business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.